Hope everyone's doing well today. Just got off the practice field. Another good day for us, special teams wise and practice wise. High energy, high tempo. Trying to clean some things up for this weekend. Obviously, fairly decent where we've been so far, special teams wise. Left a lot on the table last week against Northwestern, which is disappointing for us from a special teams standpoint. However, made a couple plays in that regard, and then right now our focus is moving forward. Focus on Rutgers, who presents an unbelievably, incredibly difficult challenge on special teams, but it's also a great opportunity for us. So looking forward to that and looking forward to Saturday. Not sure if anyone has any questions. I see a lot of hands raised.
Our first question will be from Mitch Fick.
Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mitch. How are you?
Good. When you've got a guy like Cooper, or even going back to Charlie and Amir, when you've got a guy back there returning kicks and punts that you know is a game breaker, is there a way to scheme for him to help block different ways? It's not like offense where you just, okay, let's just get him the ball as much as we can. You got to rely on the punter to be kicking the ball in the first place. But how do you best utilize a guy that can change the game with one return?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, like I said, I just walked off the practice field. That's what we just got done doing, is scheming, trying to get the guy the ball, trying to get the ball in his hands, trying to block better for him, and letting him do what he does best. And it's certainly something we work on each day and each week. It's something we focus on heavily in during spring football, and then also during fall camp. So more so the technical aspect of it and the finer pieces to that, less about the actual scheme put together, but more about the fundamentals of how to block and how to hold someone up so we can spring the returner.
Next question is from David Eichel.
Hey, Levar, always good talking to you. Appreciate you taking the time. Not to linger too much on the end of the Minnesota game, but just given the call and, the way Cooper goes about his business, did you have to have any talks with him afterwards just about, to make sure he doesn't overcomplicate things moving forward and kind of keeping that momentum just because of how, controversial or crazy the call seemed to be? Or do you say business as usual, we move forward from there?
Yeah, I think we've all moved forward from that. Going back to that and looking at it from a technical aspect, I felt like what he did was correct. Obviously, officials saw it a little bit different, which that's their job to see that, and the replay official, all those things that go into that. But more so, we're looking at moving forward, and don't ever want a guy to take his playmaking ability away from him. I think we've all seen Cooper make plays, and he's one of the guys. We will also have other guys back there as well that have done a good job and can do a good job. And so just keep coaching and keep playing and move forward, and look for the next opportunity.
Next question is from Chad Leistico.
Hey, good morning, Levar. Seems like you guys have always done a really good job of net punting advantages, coverage advantages, return advantages. Like, how can you kind of articulate how you have tried to find edges, I guess, in special teams in terms of field position over the years as coordinator, and how Iowa uses that to win games?
Yeah, a kind of a standard special teams play, obviously, is you're trying to net punt, as you talked about, like, pin them deep, send the ball down the air, trying to flip the field, and then minimize returns from a punt standpoint. Same thing in kickoff. And then from a return standpoint, every time there's a return opportunity, you want to maximize that. And that's, that's general special teams talk, general special teams coaching. I think some of the things that we may do differently or expound upon are trying to find some of that hidden yardage, whether, it's whether you can get someone into a false start or find a way to get an extra 5 or 10 yards. Those are things that we're constantly trying to work on and trying to find an edge. And I can't tell you all the edges that we find, because that would be,
oh, come on,
top secrets. However, it is something we definitely focus on.
Next question is from John Steppe.
Hey, Levar, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you about Kyler Fisher. How have you seen him kind of take advantage of the opportunities he had on special teams over the years, and how have you seen him grow?
Yeah, Kyler's a very unique player, I think, for us. And he started off here as a walk-on, ability to run the ball as a running back in high school, start off as a safety, then move to linebacker. He can do a lot of things, and it's really been fun watching him grow as a person, and, the maturation from him as a man, and then obviously as a player. He's been very good for us as a core special teams player. And typically, if there's a play made, he's in the middle of it somewhere. He certainly has room for growth still these last few games of this season, but you just try to continue to work on him, put him in the best position possible. And then he spends a lot of time outside of practice, outside of the standard meeting time. We've talked to guys about investing extra time, and he's one of the guys that does that. And I think it's been paying off for him. And then, then it translates for him into defense. And I think you're seeing some of that with Coach Wallace and Coach Parker and the guys on defense as well.
Next question is from Scott Docterman.
Levar, how's it going today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Wanted to ask you about, we're winding down on Tory Taylor's career here. He's leading the country in number of punts, those inside of 20 yards, fewest touchbacks. He's 8th in average, I think 2nd in 50 plus. If you could kind of look back at his career and when you went down to Australia to get him right before COVID, and now you look at him today, how can you kind of condense his career in that? Is this as good of a career as we've ever seen, not only in Iowa, but in recent times by a punter?
I think it's a great question. I think there's still more out there for Tory, which makes things exciting every day, because he has done a great job being here. I literally just had a conversation with the specialist group today and talking with a younger player about, if we sit back and watch, we're watching one of the all-time great players at the position, and it's fun to watch. Sometimes you're so close because you see it every day, and you're too close to see it. Then you step back, and the things you just rattled off, those some of those numbers, statistics, all the stuff. Then you step back and you watch the tape. Like, man, this guy's performed very, very well for us. He'll be the first to tell you last week was not Tory Taylor, not the guy we've been accustomed to seeing. However, over the course of his career, he's been exceptional. And just that's on the field stuff. The off the field stuff speaks for itself as well. The guy's a phenomenal human being. I've seen unbelievable growth in him as a person, maturity wise, and then leadership wise. And he's in a really good place right now. And I think we're still seeing the best football from Tory Taylor in front of us.
Next question is from Tom Kakert.
Tom, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. Hey, Levar. Forgot to come off of mute. Anyway, wanted to ask you about John Nestor. He's kind of jumped in there a little bit in the coverage game, return game, that sort of stuff. What have you seen from his development and any of those other true freshmen that are getting close to maybe being a contributor still this year?
Yeah, I think John's been interesting because he's definitely feisty, high energy, high effort, and we're getting to see some of that on tape in games. And we saw some of that early on when he first came in, maybe just didn't quite know where to go. I mentioned to Coach Ferentz, like he may not know where he's going to go, but he's going to get there fast, and it's going to be hard. So we all need to be prepared for that. But he's done a good job. And the guy, talk about investing time, and it's a message we try to share with the players nearly daily about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, whether it's special teams, whether it's school work, or whether it's tied into offense, defense. Those little investments don't seem like much during the day, and then over the course of a year, they pay dividends. I watched Cooper DeJean do that as a freshman. Didn't say a word, just would come in, hey, coach, can I meet with you? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden by week 10, we're talking about him being the starting returner, or he's going out making plays as a gunner. I think we've seen some of that with John. John's not the only guy doing that. There's other guys doing it, but the freshman, it's pretty impressive.
Next question is from Adam Jacoby.
Hey, Coach Woods, really appreciate your time this morning. Wanted to ask you, we had talked during media day before the season, and you and Tory both mentioned a lot of the physical changes and improvement that he had done over the offseason. Now that he's having such a great year, from your perspective, have you seen that improvement be a result of the physical changes, or is it a result of the maturation process, or how has he taken that next step in your eyes now that you've actually gotten to see it?
I think it's a compilation of everything. So physically, he's much more conscious about his body, much more conscious of working on mobility, working on stretching, flexibility, things like that. What he eats, what he puts in his body, and probably bigger that I've seen from him is what he puts in his mind and what he does mentally. And I think you're seeing a guy who maybe it's some of the things last year or years past that would cause him to slow down or not be as efficient. He's gotten rid of that. And Torrey, I think mentally is as strong as I've ever seen a guy, and he rises to challenges, rises to occasions. You saw the Wisconsin game. I mean, that was a crazy wind in that stadium, and the guy went out and had one of the best days I've ever seen. Which Torrey a year ago or 2 years ago, that would have rattled him, got him all frazzled and whatnot, and didn't happen. So I think that's the sign of huge growth from him. You guys been working incredibly hard on being more mentally flexible on some things when things aren't exactly right, or the wind's not exactly right, or hey, it's a little bit colder than we expected, or however you want to see that. Just handling those challenges and looking at those as opportunities, and then going out and execute anyway. And that I think is the biggest growth we've seen from Torrey.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Next question is from Tyler Cashman.
Hey, Levar, hope you're doing well. Ontario was, had impact in terms of blocking punts. I think Logan Lee said earlier this season, like he's a top 5 athlete he's ever seen. Just what are some of the things that you've kind of seen from Ontario behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think Antero is one of the guys I think that's really sort of taken a step forward. He's not even close to being where he's going to be if he sticks with it. He has a lot of ability, both physically on the field and also in defense as well. But I think he's capitalized on some of those opportunities. I think there's more out there for him. I think he missed one last week, which we talked about, and missed one Western Michigan, which we talked about. However, I do feel like he's really taken a step forward, and it's exciting. He's an exciting young guy to watch because the sky's the limit for him physically, and just want to keep working with him and keep seeing where that leads for him. You talk about a guy like Lucas Van Ness last year, sort of similar, where put him in a specific role, and this is what we're asking you to do. And can you expound on that role? I think Devin Hilson's another guy like that. I think there's a lot out there for Devin as a football player, and the things he's done for us on special teams. And to me, those are opportunities for guys to just get an opportunity, and can you take this role and can you run with it and see what happens, and then watch that grow into other roles on offense or defense.
Next question is from Chad Leistico.
Yeah, it was kind of weird watching Torrey not have the greatest game ever the other day. It was just so rare anymore. But what would you attribute maybe his struggles the other day, and also just over time, how have you seen him kind of embrace what I talked about earlier, the hidden yardage? And because he didn't know a lot about football, how has he kind of embraced, that way of doing things at Iowa?
Yeah, I think, you talk about last week, I think it's a one-off, to be honest with you. I think it's, everybody has days that aren't their best, and just happened to be that day for him. But as far as hidden yardage, things like that, I mean, I think we've all seen him do that. And I just literally walked off the practice field some point throughout the day, watched him, and it was just, it was in the indoor, but he was kind of just working on some technical things, some drops, placing the ball, some little stuff. And I'm like, man, I was just amazed watching him. I've never seen a person own the field the way he owns the field. When he is on and he wants to do what he wants to do, there's no stopping him. And it's pretty awesome to watch. But just really excited for him and seeing where that goes. But I think if you're talking about last week, it's a one-off deal.
All right, LeVar, we're going to go 4 more questions. The first one's from John Steppe.
How have you seen Drew Stevens grow over the last year and a half or so, and where do you think kind of are the next steps for his development?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier watching Torrey work, and as Drew and I were standing there talking to each other today, and I think the sky's the limit for Drew. And the reason I bring that up is I've referenced Drew and Torrey. I referenced Torrey with Drew and just said, hey, the guy you see now is not the same guy. Like Torrey's gone through a lot of work to get to the point where he's at. A lot that we see here in the building, and then even more so on his own away from here. But going back to what we're talking about with Drew, I think the sky's the limit for him physically. He has all of the physical gifts and tools that you want in a good kicker. And I also think inside there is a winner. There's a killer inside Drew, and a tiger just waiting to get let out. We see it let out every once in a while. A couple of guys in the room, we know how to trigger that out of him. The key is to get him to do that consistently over and over and over, and not let some of the external factors affect him. And that's every young player, every position, but particularly at that position where, every time he steps on the field, it's worth points. And again, I think Drew is physically capable to dominate a game if he wants to do it.
Next question is from Mitch Fick.
Coach, what's the process of recruiting long snappers? And when you find a kid like Luke Elgin, just how important is he? I mean, he's maybe as good of a sure thing as you've got on special teams, which is saying something, because we've talked about Torrey and Drew too.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. First off, specialist recruiting is probably the weirdest thing ever. Everyone talks about recruiting and how strange it is. It's even weirder for specialists. A lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it's recommendations. You don't ever even think about taking a guy unless you've seen him in person on the grass. Whereas other positions, you may offer a guy if a recommendation or someone you see them play a different position. Where specialist is different than that. But going back to Luke, I don't know there's a guy as steady for our room as Luke, and he's sort of the straw that stirs the drink. And I think Torrey will tell you that. I think Drew did say that last week. It's easy for them to execute when the snap's on the money and people are doing what, making it easy on them. And again, I think we're looking at a guy who's got the whole world in front of him, and he's done a great job so far. There's still more out there for him, and just continue to keep pushing and trying to, as far as recruiting goes, you try to find guys that have traits like that. And with Luke Elkin, we had a guy here before who plays for the New York Giants, and Casey Kreider, who had a very similar profile. Both parents were educators. Dad was a coach, good temperament about him. People rave about him. I think Luke has all those same things. His dad's a teacher and a principal. Mom, great lady, awesome family. I think we hit the jackpot when we got Luke. And then I'd also say, behind him is Liam Reardon, who rarely gets talked about, but Dad played here. Dad understood Iowa football. Dad walked on here as a center and then eventually made himself a long snapper. I think you see Reardon every day kind of push forward in that regard too. And that position, you're always looking for a guy that sort of steadies the room and makes everyone else's job easier. I think both those guys have those abilities.
Scott Doctrine.
No, Levar, looking at Drew Stevens last year, he looked like he was about 12. Now he looks like he's about 18 or 19. But on the field, physically, you could see the physical development, 25, 30 pounds, it appears, but also flexibility and strength. How instrumental has Ray Braithwaite been in helping him reach to take the next step as a kicker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ray and our strength staff, they do a phenomenal job, all positions, and kicker and punter, snapper is not anything unique. I mean, they spend a lot of time with those guys, helping them, as you mentioned, mobility, flexibility, things. Those are still areas Drew can improve upon and will improve upon. But I think, Ray's been instrumental. I also think Carmen has been instrumental in helping us, reach physical, and not only physical maturation, but also mentally, and dealing with some of the challenges that young players deal with today. When I was growing up, we didn't have social media. People didn't have the easy access to you. You could say things good or bad to you. Now kids have that in their face at all times. Aside from a coach and a parent, in their face at all times. Now they hear things from all different angles, and there's a little learning curve with that, and how to actually play the position, or how to be a college student athlete these days. I think that's been very helpful for us as well.
All right, Levar, last question will be from Adam
one?
Jacoby.
Last one. Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Adam, make a good one.
I'll make it good and quick. Drew mentioned that he had worked with you on being convicted on his lines and kicking, and what a big deal that was for the game winner. Sort of take us through that teaching process, from your perspective to the kickers to get that conviction and confidence for kicks like that.
I'm glad you brought that word up. That's been a word of the last few weeks. The difference between conviction and confidence. And in confidence is a feeling. You feel good. I feel confident. I feel good, coach. I'm ready to go. Okay. Convicted is there's no other option. And like you heard Drew say, blackout, cash out. Okay. Those aren't my words. That's Drew talking. I've never said that before to him, but what we try to do every day in practice and our mental skills, the things that we try to build and develop is you don't want a feeling or an external force, something to derail you. You want to be able to be in a position where you're not thinking, you're just going out and executing. And Drew talked about that, and I listened to his comments, and he said, I just blacked out. And that's what good players do at these positions, at kicker, snapper, punter. They black out and they go out and they execute, and then they look up and it's over and it's done, and wow, I did a good job, or I didn't do a good job. If you let those little things creep in your mind, or little things that can derail you, then typically bad things happen. And that's what we're fighting every single day, trying to be convicted rather than confident, and knowing that regardless of circumstance, we go out, we execute, and we get the job done. And all three positions, snapper, holder, kicker, I think executed that last week, and we got to continue to do that moving forward.
All right, perfect. Thank you for your time today, Levar.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. See ya. Have a good day.